Okay, so let's start with the arc length, and then afterwards we go to the surface area of revolution. So these two are just connected topics because you'll need the concept of arc length for you to be able to generate the surface area of revolution. So let's go to arc length first. So in arc length, so I think in every application topic that we have discussed so far, we always want to try to graph the equation first, graph the given equation. So it may be in a form of parabola, again, it may be in the form of ellipse, hyperbola, or any higher degree curves that you need to graph. So I think that's a given basic part in the application. So whether it's area, it's volume. So you have to graph the given equations in the problem. And again, I remind you that in graphing your equations, you need to present some calculations or some data or some proof or basis that you were able to generate your graph on your own. So if the graph magically appeared in your paper without any evidence, so I won't be giving credit to your number. So I'll just consider it as a wrong number if, again, the graph just appeared directly in your paper without any evidence. So again, evidence such as, let's say you are using a table form or table method. So you set values to your equations, or probably you also have solutions for your points of intersection. So that's the kind of solution that we need or that we are looking for in your graphing part. Okay. So again, the graphing aspect would be um, a great weight in your numbers in your items because before you go to the solution, which is very simple because the solution is more likely a formula-based type. And again, since you're able to use your calculator, so there's nothing really much that you can do with the the formula aspect in the application part. So it's more on the graphing aspect, and then the formula is you just apply the formula and then use your calculator. So in arc length, probably this one is the easiest among the application types because you just have to graph one equation. And in that particular equation, you're just going to evaluate the length, the arc length. So it's probably arc length because most of our equations are in a curve form. So it's not always that you are given a straight line. So in the arc length, you are asked to be evaluated on a certain interval A to B. So it may be in the direction of the x-axis or in the direction of the y-axis, depending on what particular interval the problem is looking for. So in some cases, the problems will be presented with a range of interval within this format. So let's say A, the starting point of your interval. So meaning it's greater than or equal to. So it could be in that format. So it could be X or Y variable, depending on the direction of which the length the problem is asking for. So it could be X direction or Y direction and is less than or equal to the upper limit. So from A to B na siya. Okay, so this one is another format. This one is more likely clearly defined because it's being defined in a certain direction, X or Y direction. So for example, that you've been able to graph your equation, the concept behind the formula presented below, the two formats, this one. So the presented formula comes from a basic type of fundamental theorem, which is the Pythagorean theorem. Okay, so let's say we are going to evaluate a certain length, or let's say we're going to get a differential length in the curve. So let's say P4 and P5. So let's say P4 and P5, and this one is your differential strip or differential length, which is represented in the second figure, which is this one, ds. So notice that since this one is more likely a straight line, so of course a circle is also composed of an infinite straight line. Okay. Okay, so kindly turn off your um, microphone. Okay, thank you. So so in P4 to P5, so again, we know that this one is a curved line, but if you want to take a differential strip, this one is more likely a straight line in the progress. So why is it a straight line? So notice that in a circle, it's a perfect curve, diba? But once we try to, let's say, create some smaller na mga kwan, let's say let's create a few dots for the circle. So most likely your circle is an edgy circle, diba? It's composed of different straight lines connected together. But what if you're going to create infinite number of points in between this one, diba? So most likely the your circle becomes a smooth curve on a far distance, diba? But if you try to zoom it very on a small scale, in a microscopic scale, so most likely the distance between the 2 points is probably a straight line. So that's why in the right side, sa kaniyatong ds, it's a straight line. Okay, so that's why uh, that's why the circle is called a special polygon because it is composed of infinite points. So daghang kay siyang tuldok in between sa inyong circle, which creates a perfect smooth curve. But again, when zoom in a microscopic level, it's actually a connection between straight lines na siya. But daghan lang siya nga straight lines. That's why it's a curve. So the concept behind the formula is just Pythagorean theorem. So you may create a triangle. So looking at the left side figure, points P4 and P5, we can say that this one is dx, the differential distance in x, and the differential distance in y, dy. So that's why we can try to use the formula of Pythagorean theorem, ds squared. So the concept is ds squared dx squared plus dy squared. And of course, the derivation of the formula is very long, so you can try to look this one up in the internet. But again, since we are not really concerned with the derivation part of the formula, thus the formula becomes this in this format. So we have one format in terms of x, the other format in terms of y, dx and then dy. So notice that I think it's this one is easy to memorize. So all you have to do is if this one is dx, so the inner dx is in the denominator in the formula sa square root. So if it's dy, so nasa ubos ang dy also. And also take note that if it's in dx, the limits are also in x, and if it's in y, the limits are also in the y direction. So pretty simple to understand. Okay, so let's try some problems now. So let's say this is your graph. Probably this one is the easiest because since you are given a, a limit, or let's say you are given the upper and lower limit in the problem for the arc length, all you have to do is to plug in 0 in this equation and pi over 4 also in this equation, and you'll be getting the 2 points now. So diretso na siya, di ba? So 2 points, and then you just have to draw the curve directly. So that's why graphing the arc length problem is simple, because you only have one equation and you are now given the limits. So again, for proof of your graph, so all you have to do is to put some solution, let's say at x equals 0. So you're going to have y is equal to ln of secant 0. Now, so let's say y is equal to 0. Okay, so meaning the first point is at 0, 0. And then let's say the other point is at x is equal to pi over 4. And you're going to have ln of secant pi over 4. Then y is equal to the corresponding value here. Okay, then you're going to have it as pi over 4 and then the y variable. So this is the kind of solution that we're looking for. So on the other types of application problem, so probably you'll be doing a lot more than this one, because you're going to have two graphs and you're going to get the points of intersection as well. All right, so since we are looking for the length in the x direction, because our limits is in the x variable, 0 to pi over 4, so our formula should be dx. So integral of x sub 1 to x sub 2, then square root. So again, if you want to memorize the formula in an easier manner, so write dx first, and then take note that dx is in the denominator inside the radical symbol. So dy over dx squared and then 1 plus. Okay. So how do we evaluate the formula? So first of all, let's try to identify which particular element we need to look for in the formula. So we have x1 and x2 given in the problem, which is 0 to pi over 4. What we are lacking in the formula is just dy over dx. So this one, dy over dx squared. So to solve for dy over dx, all you have to do is to get this formula. Get the given equation. Y is equal to ln secant x. And again, since we are going to derive with respect to x, so this becomes dy over dx. So katong pinabasic na tong derivative, di ba? So katong derivative that we have done in the u sub, we have directly transferred dx on the right side, di ba? But again, the basic format of that one is du over dx, and then we just multiply dx to the right side to isolate du. So this is the correct format. So don't multiply dx on the other side right away, because we are following the format of dy over dx. So again, derivative of ln secant x. So derivative of ln is du over u, di ba? Sakto ba? Du over u. Okay, so du over u. So let u be the secant x, but this one should be our u. So derivative of secant is secant x tangent x. Secant x and then tangent x. And then divided by u, which is secant x. So cancel secant x, then your dy over dx is equal to tangent x. And since we are going to have it squared, so dy over dx squared is equal to tangent squared x. So this element is now determined. So all you have to do is to use again the formula. So this one is equal to the limit of 0 to pi over 4, and then the square root of 1 plus tangent squared x dx. Okay, so I think you can also try to simplify this one into the square root of secant squared x, okay, para at least you can help your calculator. So this simplifies further to the integral of pi over 4, yeah, square root of secant squared x dx. And then since it's the square root, so what's left is just the integral of secant x dx from 0 to pi over 4, diba? So I think this one is easier to plug in the calculator and it gives you the answer directly. But of course, pwede ra pod ka na siya. Pero again, the disadvantage of it would be the answer being longer. But I mean, it takes a while to get the answer. Okay, magkunahuna pa ang calculator sa, di ba? Masin kita gani maglisod ta sa radical symbol compared with the simple version of the equation. So what's the length of your, so try using your calculator.
Zero point 0.88, sir.
So it's 0.88 units. Okay? So, di ba simple na kayo siya nga problem kay all you have to do is to determine dy over dx. Okay, and then this would be the solution. So again, you can only be up until here. And if you want to simplify, so you can also be up until here before you use your calculator. So take note also that since the limit is in radian form, kaning siya, pi, di ba, pi. So try to set your calculator in radian mode also. Okay, so any questions before we proceed with the next problem? Okay, so hearing none, let's proceed with the next problem. So this time is we're going to evaluate the length of this equation between 1 to 4, but this time it's in the y direction. So y is greater than or equal to 1 but less than or equal to 4. Okay, and then this equation is in this format. X equals 2/3 times y minus 1 to the power of 3/2. Okay, so again, in graphing the equation in arc length, you just have to plug in the values here. So let's say at x, let's say this one is y now. So at y is equal to 1. So x is equal to 2/3 times y. So that's 1 minus 1 So 1 minus 1 times 3 halves. So this one is 0, so x is equal to 0. So that's why the first point is at 0 and 1, which is this point here. Okay, so next is at y equals 4. So we're going to have it as x equals 2/3 and then 4 minus 1 and then 3 halves. So this would be 2/3 times 3 times 3 to the power of 3 halves. So probably x is at this value, 3 point something, diba? So 3 point something and then you're going to have it as 4. So ano lang solution siguro sa kuan sa inyong arc length. Okay, so notice that we are now in the y direction. So the formula is now shifted into its y version. So this is going to be the square root of, again, since we are in dy, so this one should be in the y direction. And in the parentheses, dy is in the denominator. Now 1 plus dx over dy squared. Okay, so again, checking the different parameters in our formula. So we are now given y1 and y2, which is 1 and 4. 1 and then 4. So for dx over dy, so we have yet to identify this one. So dx over dy, sorry. Let's write first the equation para dito maglibog. So x is equal to 2/3 times y minus 1 to the power of 3 halves. Okay. So getting the derivative dx over dy. So this is going to be 2/3. So this is going to be chain rule, diba? Or let's say katong product rule. So this one is your u, this one is your v. U dv. So u times the derivative of this variable u to the power of n is going to be 2/3 times 3 halves. And then y minus 1. But then 3 halves minus 1 would give you 1 half. And then times 1 pa jud, diba? Because you're going to get the derivative inside the parentheses, which is just 1. So derivative of y is 1, derivative of -1 is 0. So plus, so of course the other side would be just 0 because this is going to be y minus 1 to the power of 3 halves, then times the derivative of 2/3, which is 0. So still 0 on the right side, diba? So meaning your dy over dx is just equal to, so this one cancels out, also the 3 cancels out. So what is left is just y minus 1 to the power of 1 half. Diba? So murag daghang kita gibuhat pero ang gawas niya is just a simple equation. Okay, so getting the square now. So you have dx over dy squared. So this is, so actually this one is just y minus 1 and then squared, diba? The square root of y minus 1 and then squared. So meaning the value of dx over dy squared is just equal to y minus 1. So evaluating now the integral. So this is from 1 to 4. And then the square root of 1 plus y minus 1 dy. So cancel out 1, positive 1 and negative 1. This would give you just the integral of square root of y dy from 1 to 4. And then evaluate the answer. So again, use your calculator to get the answer. So it's 14 over 3. So 14 over 3 units since it is just arc length. All right, so I think that's for arc length. So again, all you have to do is to try to remember the format and then just have to follow the steps. So most probably in arc length, all you have to do is to determine dx over dy and then square it, diba? So kani-kani pidiri siya, wala ni siya. So kaning dx over dy squared, so you can opt this line here because you can just plug in dy over dx in the equation. But of course, naga po may extra lines in simplifying, di ba? So murag same gyapon. If you don't have this one, dx over dy squared, kani siyang line, then you just have to use this one, then plug it in the equation. So I think you're still going to have a few lines gyapon in simplifying the equation. Baka once you plug in y minus 1 to the power of 1 half, then diri sa inyong formula. So applying the square also gives you extra lines in your calculation. So pareha gyapon siya. All right, so I think that would be it for arc length. So it's a pretty simple topic. And this would be the solution. Okay, so let's now go to the surface area. Okay, they are just connected. So in surface area, it's the same concept as arc length. So this particular arc length, you're just going to revolve it in, let's say, a certain axis, let's say x-axis, and the generated form is a surface area. So if area atong i-rotate, diba? If area atong i-rotate, that would be volume, diba? But we are just rotating a certain line. So most likely what we're going to generate is a surface area. Okay? So similar na siya og concept sa inyong volume, but the volume is just ang iyang i-rotate is area. For surface area, ang atong i-rotate sa surface area is just a arc length or a certain line. So that's where the formula for the surface area comes from. So rotate a certain line about a certain axis, and those are the formulas that we are now presented with sa ato ang solid geometry katong surface area sa cone, surface area sa cylinder, so on and so forth. Okay, so again, the generated um, output of your arc length once rotated is a surface area. So meaning ang kanirang surface, di ba, ang atong i-determine. While labot ang volume. So again, if you're rotating an area, so what we're getting is a volume. But since we are rotating in an arc length, or let's say a line, So what we're going to get is a surface area. So for the formula, so I made this pretty simple para di na mo maglibog. So again, the formula is still coming from the same concept of Pythagorean theorem. So let's say you're going to get P1 and P2. So you're going to get the same format for the formula, but what is added is just the axis of rotation. So let's say you're going to rotate in the x direction. So you're going to get 2 pi, 2 pi y. So muna siya ang added variable sa formula. So 2 pi y is the surface of revolution, di ba? 2 pi is 360 degrees and y would be the radius. So let's say you're going to um, be you're going to rotate P1 and P2. So this one would be the radius, which is in the y direction, diba? And then since we're rotating in the x direction, 360 degrees, that is 2 pi, diba? The rotation is 2 pi, full turn. So also if you're going to rotate on the y direction, so let's say you're going to rotate on the y direction, so this would also become your radius, diba? So the radius is now in terms of x distance, diba? So that's why if you're going to rotate about the x-axis, it would be 2 pi x. So mura na siya ang napuno sa inyong formula. So if you're rotating on the x-axis, 2 pi y because that is 2 pi times the radius. But I think for the formula for the unsa may formula sa surface area sa sa cylinder. Hala, wala ka ba? Sige daw, Ben. Unsay formula sa surface area sa cylinder?
The circumference times the height.
So circumference times the height, but that's just one. Nakato pa na siyang lateral side, di ba? So 2 pi RH, di ba? 2 pi RH.
Ano
But
pa ang base.
but tapa tong base, di ba? Ang top and ang bottom. So napa na siya 2 pi r squared. But since we are just looking for the surface area kani siya. So notice that the formula is kani, di ba? 2 pi r times the h. But it's the same one as this concept here. So since we're rotating about the 360 degrees, so 2 pi r, then multiplied by the certain line that we are going to rotate, which is this one. So kani siya ang line na itong giikuan. So instead of h, ang atoa is kanilang formula diri sa arc length. Kaning complicated version. So muna siya. So muna siya napuno sa inyong equation, di ba? So let's try solving some problems para atong ma-appreciate. So let's say you have this equation. This one is an equation of a circle. So circle siya, but dili siya full circle, di ba? Because it's just being restricted to -2 going towards 2. And then we are rotating this one about the x-axis. So rotating about the x-axis. So again, I know that this one is a circle because if you are going to square this one is going to be y squared is equal to 9 minus x squared. Diba? So at least kibawa mo nga may mo siyang circle and this one becomes x squared plus y squared equals 9. Standard formula of a circle. So meaning our center is at 0, 0. HK is at 0, 0. And then the radius is equal to 3. So probably apil po na siya sa inyo ang mga kuan, di ba? Mga basis for your solution sa inyong pag-graph sa inyong equation. Okay? So also, since we are given the limits, so direct na siya input dire, di ba? So -2, then this one is the point here, and then the other point is here. So probably you're going to have it as at x equals -2, so -2 na siya. So you're going to have it as y equals square root of 9 minus -2 squared. So you're going to have it as 9 minus 4. So you're going to have it as the square root of 5. So I think it's the same as the other one. It's still the square root of 5 for x equals 2. So y is equal to 9 minus 2 squared, and then this would give you 9 minus 4, then y is still square root of 5. So this one is at -2 and then square root of 5. Then the other one is 2 and then square root of 5. So muna siya ang points diri. Then you rotate about the x-axis. So the surface generated would be this one. So muna siya kanang titawag ka na sa kamot kani kanang accessory, mark armband, di ba? Na just the surface of the armband. Okay, so that would be for the graphing aspect. So let's now go to the formula. So L, so again, since we are in terms of, we are rotating about the x-axis. So 2 pi, then integral. So let's try to write first the square root function. So we are rotating about the x-axis. So this one should be dx. So 1 plus dx, then dy squared. Ba? And then since we're rotating about the x-axis, so this one should be y. So 2 pi the radius, and then dy over dx. So let's try to go through the different formats of your solution. So y, where are we getting y? So for example, you're going to create a radius here. So let's say this one is your radius. So your radius is touching this point here, which is the equation of the circle. So meaning your y, sorry, asan naman to kung ano na. So y is equal to the square root of sorry, the square root of 9 minus x squared. Okay, so this should be your y. So again, ang inyong y, since it's touching the curve, ba? And let's say this particular point of the radius is being defined by the line or by the curve. So y is equal to the square root of 9 minus x squared. Okay, so next part is getting the derivative. So you're going to have it as dy over dx. So try to change this format into its exponential format para di mo maglisod og derive. So getting the derivative of y would give us 1/2 ba? 9 minus x squared. Then this would give us now -1/2. Ba kay n minus 1 man ta? And then don't forget to derive what is inside the parenthesis, which is 0 minus -2x. So I hope that you know how to derive such equations. I think this one is chain rule siguro as per as per differentiation techniques. Okay, so this simplifies to negative 9 minus x squared, then negative 1 half times x. Okay, so I think muna siya. Sa. Okay, so if we're going to simplify further, so negative x, then this would give us 9 minus x squared. So ako lang gi-flip daan to the ang sa denominator ang kaning kuan square root function kay it's negative 1 half man. So getting the square dy over dx squared. So negative 1 is positive 1. So x squared, that would give us x squared all over. So the square of the square root of 9 minus x squared, that is just 9 minus x squared. So simplified version natin na, di ba? So we now have dy over dx squared as well. So let me write the equation on the left side lang kay one space. So the length times, napa na siya y1 over y2, x1 to x2 de. So again, try to be ready with your calculator. So try to evaluate this one. So 2 pi, and then x1 to x2 is from negative 2 towards 2. And then our y variable is the square root of 9 minus x squared. And then the square root of 1 plus x squared over 9 minus x squared dx. So probably this one might take a bit longer. But I think this one can be further simplified by um, ma-eliminate mo ang kaning 9 minus x squared and then kaning 9 minus x squared sa denominator. So I think ang magawas ani is just kuan lang siguro kaning I think ang magawas ani is just 3 dx. So try evaluating siguro nga kana ang given equation and let's see if unsa siya kadugay mag-evaluate. So dapat by now you should be practicing how to plug in the values in your calculator kay. Again, in the calculator, the format is in terms of dx. So what if ang pangayo ang nasa inyong problem kay dy. So basin maingon niya mo later on na wala may dy sa calculator, di ba? So again, as what I have said a couple of times, the default variable for the calculator is x jud. So no matter what variable the problem is presenting sa inyong exam, whether it's letter T, letter V baron, once you plug in it in your calculator, dapat in terms of x jud siya.
Is it 24 pi, sir?
So it's 24 pi. So since we are in surface area, so that would be square units. Okay. and then this would be the solution. So again, you can only be up until here. Kani siya dire. You can just put y here, which is square root of 9 minus x squared. But again, you can still simplify if you want to help your calculator. So if you want to simplify, it gives you this format. Ma-cancel out ang kaning denominator. So the answer would be 24 pi square units. So again, just try to remember the format yun. So if it's x-axis, diba? X-axis, x nga direction, diba? So probably if it's arc length, so meaning that would be dx, diba? 1 plus dy over dx squared. Kanina ang squared ay. Ang kaning 1 wala na siya. So, and then rotating about x-axis, so 2 pi y. Then x1 to x2. So basta na puno is 2 pi y radyo na puno. Okay, so let's try this problem again. Okay, so we're now rotating this equation about the y-axis. And take note that if you look at the problem, so you're going to rotate about the y-axis, then you have the limits from y1 to y2. So the equation is y equals the cube root of x, diba? So again, if you want to get the points, so just have to plug in the values of y here. So probably if since this one is in terms of x, meaning y is equal to x, so try reverting it to x equals y first. So getting the cube of both sides, so this becomes y cube is equal to x, or x equals y cube. So I think this one is in a better format in plugging in the values of y. So at y is equal to 1, so obviously it's also 1, diba? So x equals 1 cube. So x is equal to 1. So you're going to have it as 1 and 1, which is this point here. And then the next one is at y is equal to 2. Then you're going to have it as x equals 2 cube. Then the value of x would be 8. So this gives you 1, let's say 2 day. It's 8 and 2 day. So that's why the x is in 8 units, then the y is in 2. Then you create a curve. And then since you're rotating about the y-axis, so you generate a funnel, diba? Murag funnel type of surface area. Kamulay ko na kayo naglisod ko drawing sa akong tab. So most likely mo na siya inyong surface area. It's like a funnel. Okay, so formula base now. So length is equal to, sorry. So 2 pi, and then x, since we're rotating in the y direction, that would be the radius. So the radius is always perpendicular with the axis of rotation. So x going towards the y-axis. Then the square root of 1 plus, so since we are in terms of y now, dy, okay, y direction, y limits, so this would be dx over dy squared. So di ba atbang denominator and then the other one is the dy outside. So identifying now the unknown variables. So you have the x variable, the dx over dy, and then I think the limits also. So ano ko nabutang ang limits. So x is coming from the given equation itself. So x is just equal to y cubed. And then getting the derivative, so that would be dx over dy. So this would give you 3y squared. And then getting the square, which is the square of dy over dx over dy squared, then this would give you 9y to the power of 4. I think that's it na, di ba? So using the formula again, so you're going to get 2 pi times, so the first one is y cubed square root of 1 plus 9y to the power of 4, and then dy from 1 to 2. Then I think you can evaluate this one. I think this cannot be simplified further anymore. So the length is in square units.
One 199.48, sir.
So it's 199.48 square units. And then this would be the solution. So I think later on, once you go to your assignment, so all of the application topics, I think you only need to practice the graphing aspect. Okay. Understanding the formula is pretty simple because you just have to look for the parts. You just have to evaluate the equations, then get the range or the limits, and then ang uban kay getting the derivative, di ba? So medyo dali na siya. So all you have to do is to graph your equations, then understand the formula katong vertical strip, horizontal strip, katong ubang aspects sa application topics. Then I think this would be the assignment that I'm going to give you. I'm going to post this one later. Then this would be the answers to your assignment. Para at least inyong kuan. So there are items wherein you're going to evaluate first the formula without getting the answer katong inyo lang sang kwaon ang kuan ba ang mga details sa formula such as the dy over dx squared ana. So marag mo pa na siya ang few items, and then the last two items would be the katonang kuan katong evaluating the length and the surface area. So I'm going to post the assignment after this class. Right, so I think before you leave, so I think we have some visitors from kanang mo campaign sila. So it's the SPP party. So nana sa dire, kinsay representative sa SPP dire. Murag wala man siguro. Let's kuha sa contact ha. Sige, so while waiting for them, so if you have any concerns, I think what I'm going to be to be telling you now is I think you need to get a higher grade sa inyong final exam because the final exam would be 50% of your grade. So let me try to write the breakdown of your final grade. So final grade is mo na siya kung i-post sa ISMIS which is going to reflect in your TOR. So it's a sorry. So 20% will be coming from your assignments, then 30% is your midterm exam. So, di ba? Mas kinhagbong mo sa midterm exam, it's only 30% of your final grade. And I think the bigger weight would be coming from the final exam, which is 50%. So, that's 100% sa inyong final grade. So, bigger weight ang inyong final exam. So, why is it a bigger weight? Because it would be the coverage should be from start to finish. That's why it's 50%. Yeah, aside from that, regardless whether you pass or fail the final exam or the midterm exam, if you fail to submit an incomplete assignment, so I'll be giving you an INC. So dapat you submit your assignment completely para na mo final grade. So again, if you don't have a complete assignment, so I am going to give you an INC grade para at least you have to comply with the assignment. So katong wala pa nakasabit og assignment, so start submitting your assignments kay I'm going to give an INC grade if wala pa ikaw. So, okay ra basin na may reklamo sa inyong midterm grade So, midterm grade is only the midterm exam. Wala pa ilabot ang assignment. Okay, I'm waiting for the assignment to be complete para mahimo siyang 20% directly sa ako ang calculator sa Excel. Okay, so I think that would be it. And before we leave, we have some friends from the SPP party, and I encourage you to vote during the election day because I'll be giving plus points for those who are going to vote during the election day, which I also made during the last year. So I'm going to create an assignment tab for the Canvas platform, and then you have to upload your evidence that you have voted during the election of the Supreme Student Council na election. Okay, so anyone from SPP, so try to start your campaign now.